It's no secret that we're big fans of JRPGs, and one of the brightest highlights of the genre in recent years was the magnificent Octopath Traveler. The game's world, music, and that signature HD 2D look set a bar that few games managed to reach. So when Square Enix announced Octopath Traveler 0, our curiosity immediately kicked in. The name might sound strange, and that's because this isn't the next numbered sequel. Instead, it takes inspiration from the mobile title Octopath Traveler: Champions of the Continent. But let's make one thing very clear. Octopath Traveler 0 is not a simple port or repackaging of a mobile game. So the big question is, does starting from zero breathe new life into the Octopath formula, or does it ultimately fall flat? Let's dive into Octopath Traveler 0. On PlayStation 5, the game looks the best it ever has. The sharp 4K resolution makes the HD 2D art style feel clean and detailed, with sprites and backgrounds that look handcrafted instead of blurry. Lighting is noticeably improved too. Shadows are deeper, torches glow more naturally, and environments have a nice sense of depth without overdoing it. What really stands out is how smooth the game runs. At 60 or even 120 frames per second, animations feel snappy and battles flow effortlessly. The new town building system also benefits from the PS5's power, with support for up to 500 place structures. The color palette is a bit more muted than previous games, but on PS5 it works well, giving the world a soft storybook feel, combined with cleaner depth of field effects, battle effects with beautiful lighting, and the cinematic camera movements. The game simply looks stunning from start to finish. Overall, the PS5 version offers the cleanest, smoothest, and most refined HD 2D presentation so far, easily the best way to enjoy the game visually. Octopath Traveler 0 lets you travel with 8 active characters instead of 4, and the new front row / back row system makes battles feel much more flexible. 4 characters fight on the front lines while the other 4 wait in reserve, and you can swap them instantly when it's someone's turn. This lets you react quickly, bring in someone with the right skill to hit an enemy weakness, or pull a fragile character out before heavy damage lands. Even from the back row, benched characters still help out. The result is a combat system that feels busier, but also more dynamic. Maybe the reserve character is sitting on full BP, so you pop them in to unleash a big attack and break an enemy. Or you bring a character forward for a buff, then immediately switch to user to target the enemy's weak point. It adds a second layer of party management that speeds things up and feels more engaging than past games. Everything else will feel familiar to Octopath fans. Enemies have hidden weaknesses you reveal through experimentation. Breaking them makes them vulnerable and skips their next turn, and BP still lets you boost attacks or chain hits for big damage. The biggest difference between the first 2 mainline Octopath games and 0 is how much more freedom you now have in shaping your party. After roughly 15 hours, you'll have built a core team of 8 characters, the maximum number you can bring into battle. But in the hours that follow, you'll keep meeting new characters who are eager to join your cause. At that point, you're constantly making choices. Stick with your established lineup or swap in newcomers waiting back in Wish Vale. Before every mission, you decide which playstyle you want to focus on, partly based on the enemies you expect to encounter, and that's where talking to NPCs really matters. Locals will occasionally give you useful hints about the strengths and weaknesses of monsters in their region. A major surprise in Octopath Traveler 0 is just how much it borrows from cozy games like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. The overarching goal of rebuilding Wish Vale means that almost everything you do out in the world ultimately feeds back into your hometown. Along the way, you gather materials to construct grain silos, vegetable gardens, wells, workshops, and all kinds of other facilities. And you're not just building the village, you're deciding who gets to live there. Across every corner of the continent, you'll meet people you can invite to settle in Wish Vale. Sometimes they're eager to move in, and other times you'll really have to earn their trust. Their professions, whether they're priests, lumberjacks, fishermen, freelancers, or soldiers, don't just affect the feel of the village, they meaningfully impact gameplay. Focus heavily on spirituality, and your mages will feel the benefits. Build strong agricultural infrastructure, and you'll never be short on high-quality meals. There's a constant cross-pollination between Wish Vale and the world beyond it. Events happening out in Orstera influence the atmosphere back home, and the choices you make for your village affect social and political situations elsewhere. After a long mission in some remote part of the world, it feels genuinely refreshing to return to a familiar place. The game gives you a lot of value. For reference, the Dragon Quest HD 2D remake takes around 40 to 50 hours to finish. Octopath Traveler 0 easily demands twice that, but it's not a game you burn out on quickly, nor does it fall into repetitive patterns. You're constantly running into intriguing characters with their own motives, discovering new ways to develop and customize your village, expanding your tactical options, and uncovering fresh systems just when you think you've seen everything. The story serves as a prequel, centered on the Ringbearer as they journey across Ostera after their hometown. Wishvale is destroyed by villains hunting down ancient magical rings. Unlike the first two games, which told 8 separate character stories and tried to weave them together, this entry takes a more focused approach. It follows 2 main narrative threads: the search for the rings and the effort to restore Wish Vale. That tighter scope makes the overall story far more coherent. This time around, the cutscenes come fast and frequent, and they often feel like they interrupt gameplay. But the trade-off is depth. The game carries the same narrative strength that redeemed Octopath Traveler 2, making most of those heavy story segments worth the time. The villains here are especially compelling. Each tyrant embodies an extreme, corrupted form of a basic human desire: wealth, fame, power, and each one wields a divine ring that fulfills the wishes of whoever possesses it. It's a simple concept, but the execution is gripping. In fact, the entire story is surprisingly engrossing. Every character stands out, and the antagonists in particular are some of the darkest, most disturbing villains I've seen in the series. And honestly, in video games in general, where many RPGs imply a villain's cruelty, this game shows it outright. It doesn't hold back, and that makes hunting these tyrants down feel truly justified and adds real weight to the central conflict. Now, the story is long, very long, and it does intrude on the gameplay more often than I would have liked. But despite that, it constantly kept me engaged. Whether it was through raw intensity or one twist after another, there was always a reveal at the end of a chapter that pulled me right back in. I never got tired of the story itself, just how often it got in the way of actually playing. The music in Octopath Traveler 0 is simply phenomenal. All of these beautiful compositions, which were previously locked away on mobile devices, have now been fully remade for a console and PC audience. It's a huge relief and a true joy that this incredible soundtrack is finally more accessible. Not many modern RPGs operate at this level musically. From sweeping orchestral tracks to intimate, atmospheric themes, the game's score elevates every moment. Whether you're exploring a bustling village, trekking through wild forests, or facing off against formidable enemies, it's a perfect complement to the HD 2D visuals and the world building, making the experience feel both grand and personal. Octopath Traveler 0 is a remarkable RPG about trauma, loss, and rebuilding. What impressed me the most wasn't just the story or the music, but the boss fights. Each encounter is challenging in its own way, forcing you to rethink your 8-person party setup and experiment with which characters and skills you bring to the fight. This is far from a simple, shiny mobile game port. It's a true masterpiece. With stunning HD 2D visuals, rich and coherent storylines, and fast, strategic turn-based combat, Octopath Traveler 0 combines all the best elements of modern JRPGs into one rewarding and fulfilling experience.